Why was Jack Torrance standing in a photograph hanging in the Overlook Hotel's hallway, one taken decades before he was born? Why does Split end in a diner, with a man from a completely different movie sitting at the counter? Why does the same cursed symbol keep showing up on Michael Myers' wrist, film after film? Why were the Blair Witch filmmakers' cameras found buried under a cabin that hadn't even been built yet? Why does Pennywise know Richie's little secret? Why did a hooded figure with real surgical skill show up in Saw 2, 6 years before anyone explained who he was? Why do the survivors of Final Destination 5 end up on the exact same doomed flight as the first movie? And why did the 2019 Pet Sematary trailers put the wrong kid at that birthday party? Every one of these has a real answer, and it's stranger than you think. Stick around, hit like, subscribe, and let's get into it. Jack Torrance's reincarnation. The Shining ends with Jack Torrance frozen to death in the Overlook's hedge maze, and then, almost quietly, the camera drifts toward a black and white photo hanging in the hallway, a 4th of July party from 1921. Front and center, smiling in a tuxedo, is Jack. Fans have argued about that photo for decades. How is he in it? Turns out Stanley Kubrick answered it himself. In a rare interview with French critic Michel Simend, the photograph confirms Jack has been reincarnated, the newest face in a cycle the hotel has been running for years. That's why ghostly caretaker Delbert Grady tells Jack, "You've always been the caretaker, I've always been here," because Grady himself is a reincarnation of an even earlier caretaker who also murdered his family. The Overlook doesn't just haunt people, it recycles them. And that strange deja vu Jack feels on his first day, he really had been there before. Kevin Crumb and the Secret sequel. When Split dropped in 2017, it looked like a completely standalone thriller about Kevin Crumb, a man with 23 different personalities, including one called The Beast, who has terrifying strength and can climb straight up walls. Nothing about it screamed shared universe, until the final scene. Diner patrons discuss Kevin's capture, one woman mentions a man in a wheelchair from 15 years ago, and the camera turns to reveal Bruce Willis as David Dunn from Unbreakable. Two separate movies were suddenly one story. Shyamalan later told Yahoo Movies that Kevin was actually written into Unbreakable's earliest drafts, meant to cross paths with David at a train station, but the film was already long, and comic book movies were a hard sell in 2000, so it got cut. He simply waited 17 years to tell it, leading straight into 2019's Glass. Michael Myers and the Cult. How is Michael Myers still walking around after being shot, stabbed, and set on fire? The answer was actually filmed, it just never made it into theaters. It's buried in a leaked producer's cut of Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers, which reveals Michael was chosen as a child by the ancient cult of Thorn. Their leader, Dr. Terrence Wynn, cursed him to kill his own bloodline as a sacrifice against plague and disaster, and that curse fuels his impossible strength and near immortality. Tommy Doyle, played by a young Paul Rudd, realizes the thorn symbol appears every time Michael returns to Haddonfield, marked on his wrist, and later on Dr. Wynn and Dr. Loomis too. The theatrical cut left all this out, but the producer's version confirms it. Michael was never just a man in a mask. He's a vessel for something ancient. The Blair Witch and time travel. The Blair Witch Project ends with 3 filmmakers vanishing in the woods. Simple enough, right? But the official backstory claimed their footage and camera gear were later found buried under the foundation of a 100-year-old cabin, meaning it had to be there before the cabin was even built. So how did it get there? Fans theorized the Blair Witch pulled them backward through time, into the 1940s, right into Rustin Parr's actual child murders. The 2016 sequel backs this up. Characters split off for what feels like hours, and when they reunite, everyone else insists days have passed. The witch isn't just dangerous, she warps time itself, trapping victims in loops no matter which era they belong to. Quick reminder, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Richie Tozier and his little secret. This next one's a little more emotional. Long before it was ever confirmed, readers of Stephen King's IT picked up on something quiet happening between Richie Tozier and Eddie Kaspbrak. The constant teasing, the nicknames, the way Richie completely fell apart when Eddie died. IT Chapter 2 made it official. In a flashback, young Richie shares a charged moment with another boy at an arcade. Later, Pennywise taunts him about his dirty little secret, threatening to expose him. After Eddie dies in the final battle, Richie returns alone to the kissing bridge and recarves their initials, crying. Director Andy Muschietti said King never originally planned Richie to be gay, but loved the idea, calling it the perfect bookend to the film's opening hate crime. Richie spent his whole life closeted, hiding heartbreak behind jokes. Eddie never knew. Did Dr. Lawrence Gordon survive? Saw ended on a total cliffhanger back in 2004. Dr. Lawrence Gordon saws off his own foot to escape the bathroom trap, crawls out into the hallway, and the film just cuts away. No answer. Fans spent years arguing about whether he actually made it. Saw 2 hinted he did, showing a limping figure with real surgical skill implanting a key behind a victim's eye. Saw 3D finally confirmed it. Gordon cauterized his wound on a steam pipe, and John Kramer found him and nursed him back to health. But Gordon didn't just survive. He became Jigsaw's most trusted apprentice, using his medical training to build traps and select victims throughout the series. In the finale, it's Gordon who corners rogue detective Mark Hoffman, chains him in the original bathroom, and delivers the line, "Game over." Sam, Molly, and their timeline in Final Destination. Something always felt a little off about Final Destination 5, the flip phones, the dates that didn't quite match the rest of the timeline. Fans started to suspect it wasn't actually the 5th entry at all, and the ending proved them right. After beating Death's design, Sam and Molly board a flight to Paris. Sam notices the flight number, 180, and recognizes a teacher's name from the news. A fight breaks out between passengers, and Sam realizes, in horror, he's watching the opening of the very first Final Destination. The plane explodes. Final Destination 5 was secretly set in 2000, before the whole franchise began. The end credits even reorder the death tolls, putting film 5 first. Fans who caught the mismatched tech had it right all along. This was the beginning, disguised as the end. Ellie Creed and character switch was. And finally, one that flipped an entire franchise on its head. In Stephen King's original story, P.F. Pet Sematary, it's always toddler Gage who dies and comes back wrong. So when the 2019 Pet Sematary trailers suddenly put 9-year-old Ellie front and center at her own birthday party, fans got suspicious, and they were right to be. During that party, both kids end up in the road as a tanker truck bears down. Louis saves Gage, Ellie doesn't make it. Directors Kevin Kolsch and Dennis Widmeyer confirmed the swap was deliberate. An 8-year-old who understands she's dead is far more disturbing than a toddler who doesn't. Producer Lorenzo Di Bonaventura agreed, saying Ellie's age let them explore a child fully aware of her own death and resurrection. Even Stephen King approved, calling it the perfect twist for fans who thought they already knew this story. So 8 theories, 8 confirmations. If you enjoyed this one, do me a favor, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and let me know down in the comments which theory shocked you the most.